5, 4, 3. Hello, everybody. You are watching The Main Viewer. Star Trek Coda writer David Mack joins us today. The Akudas and Doug Drexler joined Picard Season 3, and Prodigy is dropping news bombs everywhere. Wow. Okay. There's a lot of stuff going on this week. We have so much to talk about. First of all, let's just get into it. Let's introduce our very special guest. He's got writing credits on Deep Space Nine, for Starship Down, and It's Only a Paper Moon. He's a consultant on both Lower Decks and Prodigy, and he's the author of the third book in the Star Trek Coda trilogy entitled Oblivion's Gate. David Mack. Oh, you've got it right here.
Hey there. Thanks for having me on. Glad to be here.
Welcome to David Mack. Sorry, I almost didn't finish your name because I was so pleased with that image. We also have three co-hosts today. We have one half of the greatest duo ever, the No J Consortium, of course, Cirroc Lofton.
What's up, everybody? How are you?
And she's a member of the Seventh World Team, a host of Virtual TrekCon, and an actress and entrepreneur, Malissa Longo.
Hello. I have a joke.
Oh, shit.
Uh-oh.
Please.
There it goes.
Why was Star Trek so successful?
Great writing.
It had good genes. Gene Roddenberry.
And Gene Kuhn. Yeah.
Good genes.
Yeah.
Speaking of genes, that's pretty good, right?
Whoa.
He's the Dean of Natural Sciences at Duke University, specializes in genetics and all kinds of things like that, as well as the occasional science consultant of Star Trek, Dr. Mohamed Noor.
Hello. Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure to be on The Main Viewer.
All right, well, let's do it. Let's talk about fun stuff very quickly. A lot of people have been asking about the co-host of Falling Tower, our good buddy, Mr. Michael Kenyon Rosenberg. As you know, his kidney transplant was successful last week, and now he is home resting and moving about just fine. His doctor has even told him, you can feel free to eat a little bit more junk food or whatever. Now you don't have to freak out as much anymore. You can just eat. And so that's been great. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, because we want to talk to David Mack about so much stuff that's been going on lately, and everybody seems to be talking about Star Trek Coda. Can you first just tell us, what is this even about?
Okay. For the last 20 years or so, the Star Trek novels, mostly those set in the 24th century, so Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and some original series such as Titan, have had interconnected continuity. They've been telling stories that weave in and out of the various series, and events that happen in one book are carried forward and acknowledged in other books. And so they've been building this very complicated, interconnected storyline for about 20 years through many dozens of books by a couple of dozen different authors. And so we had this good thing going. I mean, once the shows went off the air and Nemesis sort of finished its thing in 2002, suddenly there was this open field. The 24th century was up for grabs. Mm-hmm. And at the time, it didn't seem like there was anything coming down the pike that was going to deal with those characters or that era of Star Trek again. So we just got permission from CBS to take the ball and run with it. So we did. And we've had a pretty good run for about 20 years. But a couple of years ago, it became known to some of us behind the scenes that Picard was in the works. And given its setting in 2399, right at the end of the 24th century, it was very likely that it was going to establish details about the late 24th century that were going to conflict with and very likely be irreconcilable with those that we had established in our long-running literary continuity. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the rules of tie-ins is you have to be consistent with the canon as it exists at the time your books are written. And as a result, we knew that as as Discovery was moving into the future and establishing new details, as Picard was reestablishing details about the late 24th century, eventually we were going to have to wind down and let go of this interconnected continuity. And we said there's two ways we can go about it. We can either simply abandon the storylines we've been working on with really no closure, or we can try to do one last hurrah, one last storyline that we try to tie off as many of those loose ends as we can, and also let our characters go out heroically, albeit perhaps tragically, doing something where they basically have to acknowledge that their timeline, their version of Star Trek's reality, is coming to an end. In that respect, it's kind of a metatextual exercise where the characters are going through the same angst and agony as those of us who created them. And we opted for the latter. Essentially, we chose to steer into the wave. And thus we birthed Coda, which is this notion of a temporal apocalypse, an unraveling of timelines, the multiverse. And our characters find out that this has been going on for some time, and they are just now getting hit by it. And as they investigate further, they figure out which species, which culture is behind it, why they're doing it. And as they get to book 3, my book, which comes out on November 30th, Oblivion's Gate, they're going to find out the role that they inadvertently played in bringing it all and making it all happen, that they actually are partially indirectly culpable for having brought about the temporal apocalypse. And therefore, it kind of falls on their shoulders at any cost to make it right. Even if they can't save themselves, they have to try and save countless other realities, because if they fall, if they don't do something now, infinite numbers of other realities will suffer. They have a chance to basically stop the damage here, basically make their deaths count for something. But, you know, it's going to be a long shot, and it's going to require a lot of luck. And so they obviously take on the dangerous mission of, let's die for a reason. If we're going to die, let's go out with some meaning. And that's what it's about.
Wow.
Heavy.
We all got so quiet there. Like we were captain, right? There was so much going on there. That's amazing. I don't know.
I mean, as my co-writer on the project, one of them, James Swallow, has said very eloquently, on a more meta level, what Coda is about. It's about aging. It's about facing the inevitability of death. And it's about sort of realizing that the only way your life has meaning is the meaning you impose upon it. That if we don't work to actively give our lives meaning, they won't have any. Life is meaningless if you simply allow it to wash over you. Existence is meaningless. Life, choosing to live, is what creates meaning. And so that's sort of the more thematic idea behind Coda.
David, does that allow for a future wave of storylines that you're now having a blank slate, so you can weave in the new stuff and start a whole nother tapestry?
Yeah, the idea is that this is going to pretty much bring to a close these many different stories that we've been doing for the last 20 years, and that when we're done, the books that are going to continue to come out, because there will be new Star Trek books, the line will continue, but the new books are going to be more closely aligned with and based upon the new TV shows. So we're going to see books that are strictly based in the Picard continuity. We're going to see Discovery novels that are set in this new 32nd century timeline. We're going to see books based on Strange New Worlds. And as always, there'll be classic Trek novels set during the time of the series. So you'll see Deep Space Nine novels from time to time that are set during the run of show. You'll see original series novels, just like we always have. Next Generation novels, again, set during the time of the original series, you know, the TV series. What we're not going to see is probably more stories connected to the ones we've been doing for the last 20 years in that post-finale period. That's sort of all going to get reset. And if we do stories set during that time period, they're going to be specifically connected to the storylines of Picard, the storylines of Discovery, etc. We're going to try and keep a focus now on books in the future being more closely connected to the new shows.
Mm-hmm.
It's got to be so tough, though, because theoretically, Right. I mean, as they say, the books are not canon. They're as close to canon as you can be, obviously, especially to us fans. But so when something on screen, which is canon, kind of in a way retcons or at least gives you an endpoint to where you know that at some point it's going to have to go back to this. Picard is going to have to be at this place at this time in this state. And you kind of have to do these gymnastics and weave around to either make it connect to that, or in this case, the three of you found a way to, it seems like, hit the reset button.
Well, we hate the reset button because that was the dreaded term for when you had to have a story have no consequences at the end, and at the end
it was all a dream thing, right?
Yeah, essentially what we were doing here is we realized that there was no way to reconcile what Picard was establishing about that period of time with what we'd already done. The books had already reached a period in time where it was Federation calendar 2386 going toward 2387. And suddenly Picard establishes that in 2384 or 2385, that's when the whole incident on Mars happened. Mars went up in flames, the AI rebellion, thousands of lives lost. There's this huge event. And then suddenly there's the whole evacuation of Romulus and all this other stuff is going on. And we realized we're playing years past this. We can't just now try to go back and retroactively drop in the Mars continuity because it doesn't work. It doesn't match anything we've done. At that point, I mean, even before the show came out, we knew we were in trouble. I was in contact with Kirsten Beyer, and of course, Dayton Ward, who at that time had just started working with Star Trek licensing, was also in touch with Kirsten. He was seeing scripts. I was getting sort of the behind the scenes making of scuttlebutt. Dayton was seeing the scripts. And we had to sort of both compartmentalize our information. And he and I both started thinking independently around the same time, we're going to have to find a way to wrap up what we're doing in the books. We have to find a way to do it. So I had this notion that I started cooking up, and I eventually pitched it to James Swallow. He was in New York City for a weekend for a convention. And I said, hey, you know, if you got a free afternoon, my friends are having a 4th of July barbecue out in Jersey. We could pick you up. We'll talk story. And so we went out, we had some burgers, we had some brisket, we had some beers, and we talked Trek. And eventually I won him over. And then I took the idea that he and I had cooked up with a little help from Keith DeCandido and my buddy Glenn Howman. And a couple weeks later at Shore Leave Convention in Baltimore, I sat down with Dayton and I pitched him my idea, and he said, you and I are so close as you're not going to believe it. He says, however, I have to warn you, dude, it is so much worse than you think. And then he starts telling me about some of the details that I didn't know about. And I was like, oh man, how are we going to deal with that? He goes, well, I got some ideas. And then he sort of lays it out for me and says, so we'd have to do this and this. He says, so how far did you think, we were going to have to fix this? I said, probably up to this point. He goes, think bigger. I'm like, all right. So that was how that conversation went. But it was, we knew right away that we were never going to be able to make this fit with that. It's a square peg in a round hole. They were never going to go together. So we have to find a way to let the square peg sort of vanish into the ether.
So David, my understanding is the first book focuses heavily on the TNG folks and the second on Deep Space Nine. So is yours, is it okay to say, because I know it's not released yet, is yours going to basically bring us up to date on Janeway and all these folks too more?
No, Voyager is not really part of the Coda trilogy to any large degree. A few Voyager characters are involved because they were left on Earth. Paris and Torres are both part of book 2. Tuvok is part of the Titan crew, which is part of all 3 books. Right. So there is representation of Voyager characters. However, because Kirsten Beyer had done so much work in her Voyager novels, with the Full Circle fleet and their mission in the Delta Quadrant, and then eventually a mission that takes them out of the galaxy into the void, on a journey to another galaxy. She had left this in a very hopeful place. She had her characters just sort of going off and doing something spectacular, and that was how she left it. And that's how she wanted us to leave it. So out of respect for what Kirsten had done, we said, all right, Voyager's hands off. And at her request and the request of the editors, certain elements from Voyager that people previously assumed were going to be a big part of this, they said, "Oh, you must be using the Krenim." No. We were actually asked specifically not to use the Krenim. So we didn't touch them. And I think they get a passing mention, maybe in book 2. But so book 3 really is, we're going to pick up with the characters who are all together at the end of book 2. And there's a line, a lot of people have been talking about this online, where they're on the run. They're being hunted by Riker, who we've now cast in the role of the Badmiral. And he's chasing them, and they need a place to hide. They need a place to regroup. And Bashir, who in the books has had some additional adventures in the mirror universe, says, "I know a place we can hide, a place where I have allies. We have to go through the mirror."
Mm-hmm.
And essentially, it's going to open up in book 3. Book 3 is going to be the transition. Our characters are going to seek refuge. They're going to seek asylum, sanctuary, if you will, in the mirror universe with the Galactic Commonwealth, which I established in Rise Like Lions, which was my mirror universe revolution book, which we've seen a couple of times since then in and I think in a Section 31 novel I wrote called Disavowed. That was when Bashir made the crossing again, went back.
Mhm.
So the mirror universe is very different from where we left it in DS9. We've carried forward the Terran Revolution storyline and have radically changed the status quo in the mirror universe by this point. So that's where our characters are heading. Meanwhile, the Titan crew has to figure out what is scrambled in Riker's brain and try to get him back on track. And there's a few other subplots that I don't want to spoil. I want to let people discover them when the book comes out.
What was the I did a lot of reading of the Titan series.
Mhm.
There was I was glad you mentioned Tuvok is still a part of that. I don't know how far beyond the Titan series this is, but there was also an unjoined Trill male like tactical
Ranul
officer.
Karu?
Yeah,
He's the chief of security.
Right.
He, I think originally at the beginning of the Titan series, he was romantically involved, I think, with character Hawk, Lieutenant Hawk from First Contact, and then Hawk dies. This traumatizes Karu, but eventually Karu finds a new partner who he's happy with, who he is domestically shacked up with aboard the Titan. They have a relationship, and it's not any drama at all. They're just happy together.
Awesome.
So yeah, Ranul Karu, unjoined Trill, is there. I think he's with a transporter officer named Bowen Radowski, if I remember correctly.
I don't remember that.
So that's who he's with, and so that's what's going on with the Titan. And
Wow.
as far as where we are chronologically, this
Yeah.
picks up maybe, I don't know, a couple of months or maybe a few months after the last previous Titan novel, which was my novel, Fortune of War.
Okay, that's easy to work. And that was kind of right after the A Time to series. There were like 7 books. It was like A Time to Kill, A Time to.
Oh, not right after. Time 2, which came out in 2004, was set in 2378, leading up to the events of Nemesis in 2379. A Time 2 basically is a prequel series to Nemesis. It tells the year leading up to and explains why suddenly everybody was basically diverging and going away at the end of Nemesis. However, we established a lot of consequential events in Time 2 that sort of set the stage for the literary universe. Things like the Tesla Crisis, which was the Star Trek analogy to the Iraq invasion of 2003, and then followed by the Occupation, which did not go well. So there's a lot of that. And then there was, that led to Section 31 assassinating a Federation president, and Picard is implicated in that. And then in my Section 31 novel, Control, Section 31 gets taken down by Bashir, who suffers a terrible, terrible price for his victory. But in the result, they expose all the Starfleet personnel who are involved, all the government people who are involved. They all get taken down, they all get arrested, but the bad news is Picard gets implicated. So in my TNG novel, Collateral Damage, Picard has to face what's called an Article 32 hearing, which is essentially, it's like a pre-trial hearing where you hear evidence to see if there's reason to court-martial. And it's based on real military court procedure. So he goes through that, he gets exonerated, and it's just after that where he's gotten back to the Enterprise and they're getting ready to head back out and go start looking for strange new worlds that time begins to unravel.
Now, are there any
Melissa? Oh yeah, go ahead, Melissa.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead,
Or-
Melissa.
Are there any crossovers between the novels and the games?
Very few. The games eventually developed a take on the continuity that was incompatible with what we were doing in the books. They started to diverge right around 2381, 2380, somewhere in that period. They weren't really able to incorporate the events of my Destiny trilogy, which was, completely altered the landscape of the fictional universe with the Borg invasion, and which eventually ended with the Borg being rendered non-existent by the end of it. The game didn't want that because they wanted to keep the Borg as an antagonist. They were too used to it. And eventually it came down to the fact that the storytelling at Star Trek Online and the storytelling we were doing in the novels had different objectives. We were looking for consequential stories that could have significant change, but could open up new story possibilities. But the game needs stories that are based on conflict and can lead to interactive gameplay, competitive gameplay. And so the storytelling needs were very different. So the whole sort of future history they devised for the game was designed to suit their narrative needs, whereas what we pursued in the novels suited our narrative needs.
One question I have to ask, I hope it's okay, but can you tell us where Jake Cisco is at the start of the novel?
Yeah. We've
Actually,
waited long enough.
Jake Cisco's dealt with in book 2 by James Swallow. He's in The Ashes of Tomorrow, along with his wife. When we first catch up with him, he's living on Bajor. He's working on a new novel. He's receiving a certain amount of praise for the work he's done up to that point, and he gets visited by his father, who has come back from the temple many years prior, and basically his father says, you've got to take your wife and your kid and get off this planet, because I've had a vision from the prophets who are telling me this planet is not long for this universe. You need to get out of here and go join Cassidy and Rebecca, your half sister. You need to go join Cassidy and Rebecca on Cestus 3 right now. And there's a great sequence that James wrote where they're trying to get off world. And of course, the transports are all, clogged. It's all chaos. There's disorder. People are on the verge of rioting, and it's all about to go to hell. And the authorities are about to probably start, opening fire on civilians. And Jake Cisco basically stands up on top of a shuttle and leverages the fact that he is the son of the emissary, and he basically shouts everybody into order and gets the situation under control and gets himself and his family off the planet, but also saves thousands of lives from a riot that was probably going to go wrong. So he, has his moment of heroism before he, as they say, gets on the bus and leaves the story. But he makes it out safely. And this is a spoiler, or this is a terrible spoiler for the end of book 2. After he's on the ship, but before the ship can get out of the system, it is under threat from these things called Nagas, which we'll just call them giant space snakes for lack of a better description. They are incredibly powerful, very destructive, and if they get a hold of your ship, they're just going to bite it in half or smash it into pieces on impact. His ship is threatened by this, and what eventually saves his and several other ships is sacrifice of a Starfleet vessel being commanded by Nog. Nog basically gives his life and sacrifices his ship to save Jake's family and to save thousands of other people.
Wow. So
It's a heroic tribute to Nog. Nog becomes captain and does the noble thing.
Any inspiration from the 8th season of?
It's actually, we came up with this before any of us had seen What You Leave Behind, or What We Left Behind. We hadn't seen that. We didn't know what their plans were about the 8th season, and by the time that came out, we had already locked in on this story, and we found it kind of interesting that there were these parallels. Obviously, the timing is very different. They have it like 25 years later, whereas we're just a few years later, maybe 10 years later. But again, the premise very similar.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
and
we'll have
actually,
to-
Melissa, you've got the image behind you. It's only a paper moon that David Mack had the writing credit on. Sorry, Cirroc, what were you saying?
No, I was going to say we owe David a check. Somebody owes you a check over there for that, what you left behind. But I did
Yeah,
have a
they used a
question.
lot of clips from a lot of my episodes in that one, didn't they?
Yeah.
Or a lot of clips from Starship Down, a lot of clips from Paper Moon. And strangely, when I talked to Ira, asked if there was any way to get on camera and talk about it, he blew me off. Apparently, I wasn't important enough to talk to. So,
Well,
I guess
he'll regret
freelancers don't count.
He'll regret that. But I have a
You'll be
question
sorry,
for you.
Bear.
What is the storyline that you were most sad to put a close or like a ribbon on, and that you were most upset to have to say goodbye to?
From the books?
Yeah.
God, there's so many. I guess the one that I've been running is that I had found a way to bring back data that I thought was better than some of the others I'd seen done, say in comics or elsewhere. I'd had this notion of how Data comes back, and eventually, once reincarnated, he finds a way to resurrect Lal. So there was this new relationship between Data and Lal, and he doesn't choose to go back to Starfleet. He realizes, I've given Starfleet enough of my first life. This is a new lease on life. I brought my daughter back. We're just going to live. We don't have to be part of Starfleet anymore. And so they had this interesting arc where they were doing interesting things and sort of just exploring life. And the idea that after what I went through and what the characters went through, to bring Data back from the dead in a way that I felt was emotionally satisfying, to have to see those characters go into the dark and to have that story effectively be erased is kind of heartbreaking. In fact, to be honest, the whole trilogy, the whole undertaking, the whole remit of the project is heartbreaking. It was essentially, let's find a creative way to burn down 20 years of our own work and 20 years of the work of dozens of our colleagues. And there's no way to approach that isn't heartbreaking.
Especially since you are covering the expansion of the stories of so many characters. There's so many characters that all splintered off, but also kind of stayed, weave back in and out. Yeah. And it's just so expansive, and there's so much.
We had finally Riker and Troy, they have their kid. We had them have a daughter after having dealt with miscarriages in the Destiny trilogy, which put them through some hell, which apparently they have not endured in the Picard series. We had Picard and Beverly finally get married, and thanks to 24th century medical technology and intervention, they were able to have a child together despite their years. So they had a young son named Renee, who unfortunately goes through quite his own bit of hell in the Coda trilogy. And again, it's sad because we always felt that there was wasted opportunity there, that really Picard and Beverly were meant for each other. There was some sort of star-crossed romance, and that it was really just disappointing in many ways that the show producers chose not to pursue it. They seem to have gone out of their way to find reasons not to pursue it. So we kind of just said, well, let's go the other way. And Picard has an epiphany in the books after a certain point, and they get together and they have their kid, and he's happy. And essentially he realizes that fatherhood made him a better man. It taught him new things about himself. It changed his perspective. It changed his way of thinking about other people, his way of thinking about time, his legacy. It made him more patient, made him more empathetic. And he realized that becoming a father was, something that he'd put off, something that he thought he didn't want, until he embraced it. And he sort of almost had to be dragged into it. But then once there, he basically did it the way he does everything in his life, with class and style and gusto. And he becomes good at it, and it makes him a better man. And so that's another thing that's hard to let go of, is we've put Picard through this journey of growth and development, through his journey into fatherhood. And again, having to erase that seems a shame, but that's the job. We knew it was dangerous when we took it.
Well, David, I know you have to go in just a second here, but
I also know you also have other guests you need to get to.
No.
I can stick around if you want.
Oh, great. Yeah. If you want to stick around for another 15 minutes, that would be awesome. Because honestly, this this feels like a fireside chat. I feel like I could be roasting marshmallows and just hear you telling stories about
Yeah.
Star Trek, about all of our favorite
Mhm.
characters and where are they now and all this stuff. It's amazing. We're going to bring on Dr. Anne-Marie Segal, who's been in the chat as well. So she's going to listen in as well. There she is.
Hello.
Dr. Segal.
Okay. So without any major spoilers, I did take a quick peek just to know what this was about, and the Coda story, the trilogy, and it said the ships of Ezri Dax
Mhm.
and Cisco and Picard
And Riker.
and Riker, the Titan, of course, all have to combine to do this big thing that we're talking about. And obviously the first things we hear are, wait, Ezri, Captain, and Cisco, Captain? What have we missed?
Hold on 1 second.
Well, a lot if you're just coming back into the novels now. Again, this is the end of 20 years of work.
Right.
But essentially what happened with Ezri was back in the Destiny trilogy, which came out in 2008. Essentially, we jumped forward. And the reason this jump forward occurred at that particular time was that we wanted to have this great epic trilogy that was going to come out at the end of 2008, around the time that originally we thought the new Star Trek movie was going to hit. This was before we knew it was going to be delayed until May of 2009. But we were told you can use TNG, DS9, and you can use Enterprise, but you can't use Voyager really because Kirsten Beyer has called dibs, and you can't use anything 23rd century. You can't use TOS or anything like that because we don't know what Abrams is going to do, so we have to go hands off on that century. But given what we had to work with, and they said we want something epic, I came up with the Borg invasion, which is they've given up on assimilating us. After Janeway blew up their transwarp hub and put a massive section of their transwarp network into dust, that's the point where the Borg just kind of go, yeah, you're not worth assimilating. We're just going to wipe you out. You've become a pest. You're an infestation. We're done with you. Now we're going to kill you. And they don't come looking to bargain. They're not here to assimilate. They're not here to talk. They're not here to take anything. They're just here to eliminate everything in their path. And they don't, it's like before they send one cube, maybe a couple of cubes, those were incidents. Those were minor skirmishes. By the time this thing gets into full swing, the Borg send approximately 7,200 odd cubes into Federation space, and they lay waste to everything in their path. They destroy entire star systems. They blow planets off the map. By the time it's done, 63 billion people are dead. Everything in 100 light year radius around the Azure Nebula, which, as it turns out, is their entry point for a number of reasons that are explained in the story. Everything within 100 light years of that is essentially a dead zone. They've wiped out everything. So there's this massive patch of just dead worlds. And what happens is that during this period of time, Ezri had basically been progressing in the DS9 novels from around 2001 through around 2006. She'd been saying, once she embraced her Trill nature, she was like, I can be more than this. I don't have to just be a counselor. I have multiple lifetimes, hundreds of years of experience. I can be so much more than this. So she changes over to command track. Becomes a command officer, a junior lieutenant. And what happens is she gets transferred to a ship, the Aventine, which is one of these new slipstream starships that are being built with tech that Voyager brought back. She's second officer, I think, so third in command. And in an engagement with the Borg, Captain, XO, and a bunch of other officers, all dead, taken out in one shot. Suddenly, Lieutenant Dax, 26, 27 years old, is ranking officer on the bridge.
Oof.
What choice does she have? She has to take command. Gets the ship out of danger, yada, 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 does what she does. At this point, now the Borg invasion is underway, and Starfleet has a shortage of ships, shortage of captains, casualties are mounting. So what do they say to her? They say, congratulations, you're captain now. You're promoted, pick an XO, and get back in the fight. Go back to work. And that's basically, she becomes captain the same way Picard became captain. Picard got to be captain at 27 on the Stargazer when his captain and XO were killed. And Lieutenant Picard took command of the bridge. So Picard understands in Destiny what young Esri is doing. He's become this elder statesman of a captain. Now she's the young maverick. She's the young hothead, but she's also got hundreds of years of experience. So she's not a kid. She's not stupid. She's just a Dax. And as you remember, we were told, Daxes don't always think. Sometimes they just do. And that's Esri as a captain. Sometimes she just does. So that's how she becomes captain of Aventine. That happens during the Borg invasion. There was a whole storyline in the post-DS9 novels about Cisco's return from his time with the Prophets. They started hinting at it in 2001 with the Avatar books by S.D. Perry. And I think he finally returns in the novel Unity about 4 or 5 years later. And I think there's maybe a dozen novels in the DS9 continuity between those 2 points. But eventually he does return. And there's a whole storyline that follows that. And there's storylines in the Gamma Quadrant and some species called the Ascendants and yada, yada, yada. And I wrote one of those books, which was called Warpath. And that involves Kira having visions after she's critically wounded. And she learns that she's something called the Hand of the Prophets. So she's got some role to play that is apparently on a par with the Emissary. The Emissary is the message of the Prophets. He's the word. She is the action. He's the messenger. She's the boots on the ground. And so they realize that Kira is just as important to the faith as Cisco is. And within, I think, a couple of novels after that, she leaves military service and becomes a Vedic and starts novitiate training and basically joins the religious side of Bajor. And she becomes a religious figure, which is where she is by the time we catch up with her in Coda.
Oh, Nana's got to hear this stuff.
Yeah.
She would probably love that. And it's interesting because, again, I think the producers, when they were talking about their season 8 plan, they also had this notion of Kira becoming a Vedic. It's like, so again, by just sheer chance, we hit on the same thing. And this was years ago. This happened back on the writing side back in 2008, 2009. So, I mean, it's not like we had any insight into their plans. We just looked at the same set of starting assumptions and then hit upon some of the same ideas.
Well, it's Star Trek Online. She's a Vedic as well.
Yeah. I mean, again, there are some things where the online guys said, that's a good idea. We can use that. And they've adopted some of the ships that we, developed for the books. They've brought them over to the online side. Like, so the Aventine, which is a ship that I made up for Destiny, for Dax, eventually, it was designed, a designer put together a mock-up and a wireframe. It got incorporated into Star Trek Online, and now the Eagle Moss guys who do the little miniatures, they sell little Aventine starship miniatures. So even though it's never been on TV, there's little there's little Eagle Moss miniatures of the Aventine.
Nice.
I love that title, The Hand of the Prophet, though. It reminds me of Game of Thrones. I expect
too.
to have a little pin there on her shirt.
Yeah. And this was also, I'd never read the George R. R. Martin books, and this was years before Game of Thrones was on TV. So again, it's just one of those coincidences.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. These people are copying you, man.
Well, you say that. I look at, I wrote Star Trek Section 31 Control about a malevolent artificial intelligence called Control that runs Section 31 and has for centuries. And then Kirsten Beyer mentions it to the writer's room. And then suddenly, what's season 2 of Discovery? It's about a malevolent AI named Control that runs Section 31. And I'm like, where's my check, people? I mean, I know I'm actually not entitled to a check. It's all work for hire. I don't own the copyright, but a thank you credit might have been nice. A T-shirt. They could have sent me a T-shirt.
A T-shirt. You just gotta email them your sizes. See what happens.
I got the honorary art department T-shirt in season 1. It would have been nice to get something for season.
Oh, that's cool.
At least be on a mailing list.
I created Control. And all I got was a lousy T-shirt.
Yes, that would be acceptable. I could live with that.
Janet Jackson has that shirt too.
Oh,
there you go. David, I have a quick question about the novels. Out of all the novels that you've written to this point, which one of them would you like to see turned into a film?
It's hard to say. I mean, of my original novels, or are you talking about the Star Trek novels?
The Star Trek novels.
Let's see. I've written 29 Star Trek novels up to this point. I actually, at one point a couple of years ago, I was in like a big phone creative meeting with Kurtzman and their people. I actually tried to pitch them on the Destiny trilogy, which is the Borg invasion one. It's a big sort of multi-crossover event. And at the time, they were trying to figure out how to bring Stewart back into the fold. And he had said in a Variety interview he wanted to do something big, something epic. So I pitched them that. And that was originally how that sort of ball started rolling. And we actually went through a whole bunch of rounds of back and forth and outlines and beat sheets and trying to figure out how to adapt the story. And eventually it just never gelled. It just didn't come together. And eventually also Stewart didn't want to do it, which is, why the project went in a different way. But I mean, I would still love to see it adapted, maybe as, sort of like Marvel did their What If series. It'd be kind of cool to see, Star Trek Myriad Universes, and sort of do a whole animated miniseries, like do a nice Prodigy level computer animation miniseries, get the actors back to do the voices, but that way they can still look youthful and energetic and not all squidgy. And that would be kind of fun. But if not, I don't really so much see my work as adapting to movies. It's more suited to a TV adaptation. The one I'd really love to see come to life is the Star Trek Vanguard books. It was a series I co-developed with editor Marco Palmieri. It started coming out in 2005. It's set during the original series era, so the time of the original Star Trek, Kirk and Spock and that whole era. And it's, it's sort of grittier. It's a little more realpolitik kind of based. It's based around a starbase called Starbase 47, aka Starbase Vanguard. There's a whole top secret operation. It turns out as you go through the saga, you realize it's the secret origins of where Project Genesis actually came from. But you also learn like the secret origin of the Tholians, like, and why the Tholians to this day are still so angry at the Federation. Where did all that animosity come from? It's just this big sweeping epic. It's 8 books. I wrote every other book. My friends Dayton Ward and Kevin Dillmore wrote the alternating books. And that just sort of, again, that's a quirk of how that happened. We ended up working really well as a team, alternating back and forth. But I still think to this day that would be a fantastic, like 3-season Star Trek TV series, and it could dovetail perfectly into Strange New Worlds. So I would love to see Strange New Worlds be the handoff or the kickoff for Star Trek Vanguard, the TV series.
David, you mentioned earlier on that your future books are going to be focused or are going to be fitting around, say, Discovery, Strange New Worlds, Picard, things like that.
Well, I don't even know if I'm going to have any future books. I have nothing under contract. I just know that they're not going to give up doing Star Trek novels. And I have a sense that the remit in the future will be that the books will be more closely aligned with the new TV shows.
Gotcha.
Whether I'll get to write any of them, I have no idea. Nobody's called.
Probably.
Do you think the new books? Do you think the new books would ever leverage Lower Decks, like would like Rutherford or Tendi?
Well, I mean, we snuck some references to Lower Decks into the Coda trilogy. There's references to a character named Teresa Chen talking about the importance of second contact. There's a reference to a California class starship. So we snuck in little jokes. And I think there's also, James Swallow was very close. He was going to put in a joke regarding Miles O'Brien as he embarks on some near suicide mission thing, saying, if I don't make it back from this, tell them I want them to build a statue of me. But he decided that was a little too on the nose. He couldn't go there.
That's funny though.
But we got some references in there, and I got a very sly sort of half nod to Prodigy into Oblivion's Gate. And it's funny because in my Mirror Universe books that I wrote years ago, I happened to have a Tellarite character whose last name was Pog. And then they've got Jankum Pog going on Prodigy. So I have Lieutenant Pog in some of the Mirror Universe sequences of Oblivion's Gate. It's not necessarily supposed to be a nod to Prodigy, but maybe it kind of is. We don't know. Could be.
Maybe on Tellar, that's like Jones.
Yeah, it could be Jones. Could be a cousin.
It's a Smith.
Maybe this is who he could have been if he'd been not kidnapped into the Delta Quadrant or something.
Mhm.
So we've acknowledged them. Whether or not those series are going to lend themselves to novels, hard to say. Much like the other new series, their continuity is very tight. There's not a lot of empty spaces between the episodes where you can sneak in another story of novel length complexity. Maybe between seasons, if they do like long time jumps, maybe we can work something in there. There might be prequel stories that are worth telling, depending on how the backstory rolls out over the next 20 episodes or so. I think Lower Decks, if I had to guess, and I don't know this for sure, if I had to guess, I would say it'll lend itself better to comic books. I think it is a natural fit for IDW. It's all they got to do is get the right writer on it with the right sense of humor, get an artist who can pick up that style, and boom, that thing is gold. I think that'll work great.
Trading cards.
Trading cards, sure. And Prodigy, same thing. I think it's tailor-made for short little vignettes of comic book length, 22-page stories or even less, maybe 16 or 12-page stories that could theoretically happen between episodes. But as for novels, it'd be really hard. Just because their continuity is so tightly put together. They don't really leave a lot of room to sneak new stuff in.
It would be really fun to see how Mariner ended up on the Cerritos. Like,
sure.
Been so many places that would be fun comic books. Her stint on DS9 and her stint with other people.
She's going to be everywhere.
The early
Great
years. You get like a whole
early
year
years.
of issues out of Mariner. The early years.
Totally.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of Lower Decks and Prodigy, David, we really hope to have you back sometime soon so that you can talk to us about Lower Decks and Prodigy, even though you can't really talk too much about
contract. I'm looking at the confidentiality paragraph. I'm trying to find the expiration date on it. I can't find one, but if I find a loophole,
you and Mohamed were working on that before we recorded. And Cirroc, I know you also have to run, right?
Yeah, I have to run, but I want to say thanks to David, and also, you've got a great voice, man. I don't know if you've tried to do any voiceover work for reading out your novels, but you've got the voice for it.
I've never really considered reading my own novels. They have an actor named Robert Petkoff who does most of the Star Trek novels. As for the voice, I think part of it is that I grew up listening to my father, who was a radio announcer. So
wow.
I used to love just sitting next to the radio listening to my dad on the radio.
There it is. You nailed it, Cirroc. Yeah.
He's
all right.
got the voice.
So
thank you. That's really kind of you to
Cirroc
say.
and David, will let the two of you go. Before we do, though, we did talk to Doug Drexler about joining us soon, so he can talk to us about the news with him on Picard. And Cirroc, he told me absolutely positively, do not forget to tell Cirroc I said hello. So I just need to make sure to pass that along so I didn't forget.
All right.
I'll tell Doug I said hello because Doug did on the cover art for all the Vanguard novels.
Really?
Oh, cool.
Oh yeah,
Will do
he gave those books their look and feel, their brand identity is Doug Drexler's CGI starship art. So tell Doug I said hello.
Nice.
Absolutely. And we're going to have him on soon as well. We're just figuring out exactly when. But Cirroc, I'll see you on, I can't say the day because then that'll ruin movie magic when we record. But, in a couple days when we record.
At the
Bye,
Prodigy.
everybody.
Bye, Cirroc.
Recording.
Bye, Anne-Marie. Bye, Mohamed.
Melissa.
Oh, yeah,
See
you're
ya.
right.
Bye.
David. Always a
Take care.
pleasure, guys.
And David, thank you so much for joining us. This has been awesome. It really did feel like a campfire and just listening to you tell stories about all of our favorite characters and
All of our
the
friends.
storylines. It really is. That's
Well, thank you for having me on. It was a great opportunity, and I love to talk about these characters and these stories because all of us who write the books have spent the last 20 years telling these stories with as much love, as much passion, as much precision as we can. And even though the stories that we've been working on are going to come to an end, they're always going to exist. They're going to be there for people to read and enjoy. And I just hope that, maybe the press that we're getting about bringing it to an end, maybe we'll spark some folks who haven't, spark interest in some folks who have not read them before to maybe go back and give them a try now that they know that there's a beginning, middle, and an end to the whole arc.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. It sparked some interest in me. I only knew a little bit about the beginning. You're telling me about the end. I'm like, what's this Vanguard stuff? I got to check that out. So it's working.
Vanguard is probably my favorite thing I've ever written for Trek.
Wow.
Oh, that's awesome.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So everybody at home, when that comes out, check out Star Trek Coda number 3. And when was that? November what?
30th.
November 30th,
30th.
Oblivion's Gate.
Last day of the
Beautiful.
month.
And the first 2
Beautiful.
books are called Moments Asunder, and that's by Dayton Ward. And the second book is The Ashes of Tomorrow by James Swallow. Both books are out now and available from fine book retailers as trade paperback, digital audiobook, and in multiple ebook formats.
He almost said that like a voiceover commercial. Did you
I
notice
know.
that? He just went right
I'm
in. He's like,
amazed.
check this out, guys.
No
Yeah.
CODs.
Yeah, no CODs. All right. Well, thank you so much, David. We really appreciate it. We do hope you come back
I would love
sometime
to.
soon to talk more about this, because this is amazing. We love it.
Mhm.
Right.
Awesome.
Thanks very much, Dave. We'll see you soon. We'll let you out right now, and hop in and check out the rest of the show if you'd like. We're just going to talk about everything you said. So we'll see you soon.
All right. I'll take care. See you later.
Thank you. Bye.
David,
Bye-bye.
that was great.
All right.
Everybody in the
That
live chat's
was-
like, usually I work during this, but I haven't gotten any work done because it's so captivating.
It is. It was like,
Has such fascinating stories.
Yeah, and his passion for it really came through. I love it.
Yeah.
that's what we need, is somebody that's just a huge 80s and 90s Star Trek fan to continue these stories and continue writing these stories
Yeah.
about our favorite characters and our favorite ships and our favorite storylines. And that's exactly what we're getting. I was captivated by that. I just wanted to keep listening.
Especially when they
Tell
said
us more.
when he said
Tell us
Tellarite.
more.
I was like, oh, wow.
Antholians.
I know.
But
Right?
it's coming from somebody who's invested as much time in Trek as fans have, decades of their lives into Trek. So he obviously loves it as much as the fans do, which shows, and it's wonderful to listen to.
Thank goodness Star Trek keeps calling his number to write these novels, because this is the right person to be writing these. That was beautiful. That was awesome. Hopefully he will come back. I was going to make a joke about
hear
Anne
way
Marie
more about
chasing him
Prodigy
off.
and Lord. Oh,
Yeah.
hilarious.
well, we didn't even get to talk about it because this was way too good. But
Oh my God,
let's-
Derek Wilson, I need a cigarette after this. Smoke.
they are cool.
That's
yes.
amazing.
Absolutely. And he also was saying that this deserves some applause because it was so great. And everybody in the chat, we wanted to shout you out, but we were as captivated as you were. I was useless. I was like, just tell me more. I want to keep hearing stories. And but we were watching you guys, and I did see all the great comments, and everybody was loving it. Also, Michael Kenyon Rosenberg was in the chat for a little bit there. And I wanted to be like, did you hear? We shouted you out. And then he was gone. And with that, he was gone.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if you're going to say something there, Malissa. Okay, so let's move forward to Doug Drexler. We mentioned him just at the end of that segment there. Doug does want to come on the show and talk all about it because he is another person that is super passionate and a huge Star Trek fan.
Can his show be like
And-
24 hours long of just him? I can never get enough.
Yeah, and so he couldn't make it today to talk about it because there was all this news around Picard, but he did say and said we could quote him on this for the show. He says, with regards to Picard season 3, since the news is that Picard season 3 is going to have Denise and Michael Okuda, as well as Doug Drexler. He says, quote, "For the Okudas and I, it is our voyage home. We've come full circle. This new upcoming season will give you, quote, the feels. It is a gift to fans and a wonderful button on an incredible Star Trek career. We couldn't be more excited."
Oh,
And
that
it's like
does give
back
me
in the
the
24th century, I'm assuming, after season 2 of Picard.
Right.
So
Exactly.
like that's like such great continuity for like designing that era.
Weren't the Okudas involved in the movie The Voyage Home too? I was thinking-
Oh yeah, I think isn't that the one? Actually, I think so. And then actually in TMP, isn't that the one where Denise actually like is in the background of one of the scenes?
Really? Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
I think it's more so.
So since I was so captivated by David, I didn't even get to say very quickly that, look, at this is kind of one of the things where the news came from is right here. David Mack on Twitter says, "Because the news is out and spreading rapidly, I'm now free to share a few details about the project on which I've been laboring for the past several seasons, Star Trek Coda." He shows a little Picard applause and some good discussion here. So check out David Mack. Here he shows the titles of the trilogy, all kinds of great stuff. So check him out on Twitter. He's at David Allen Mack, and he's going to tell you all the kinds of good stuff there.
cool.
Also, referring to the Okudas and Doug Drexler, we can go hop over very quickly
They're like
to
my ultimate celebrities.
They are. Everybody at home, and
You're like, also, you know, I talk about them like every day of my life.
Right. So this is
Thanks.
Trek Core here. We've got a cool picture of the three of them, part of the art department there. And
My
they
favorite
just,
celebrity couple.
are they really?
Yes, they're so cute.
There they are
Love
with
them.
Darren Doctorman.
That's everybody working in the art department
Dave
on Picard.
Glass.
But obviously they're more that just aren't there. I think they were at Skirball Center in LA on Friday night to talk about to be on the edge of forever with Mark Altman and Darren Doctorman too.
Wow, really
And
cool.
Scott Mann.
And Scott Mann. Scott Mance.
Mhm.
Yeah, we love him.
Yeah.
That must be Liz Kloskowski also in the picture here, I'm guessing.
So cool.
Anyway. So what do you guys think about that? The Okudas
I've been like
and
dreaming
Doug
since there.
Drexler coming back for season 3 of Picard, and they're just going to make it, they're going to close this amazing career.
I screenshotted it so that like when I'm 80 and I go through my phone, like there's some memories that made me super happy. That's one of them.
I believe that.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's great that they're bringing back these people who have such deep roots in Trek. That it's great that, yes, there's a fresh perspective from new people coming in and new writers and what have you. But like with David Mack, he's consulting, and the Okudas and Doug Drexler. I think it's great that there's that kind of coming together of people who've invested, like I said, their lives into Trek, and then people who are fresh, who can add a fresh perspective of telling these stories and telling them together and keeping the heart and soul of Trek there, present, because that's why we invest so much of our lives in this, right?
Beautifully
Yeah.
said.
And Terry Matalas, who is the showrunner, right, for Picard,
And a great Twitter follow.
And a great Twitter follow. Anne Marie said, "Why is that you?
Because
You're always jumping around."
Picard. He's jumping around because he always is updating us on Picard. He gives the best updates, and you can trust him because he's the showrunner.
Mm-hmm. He says, "Beyond thrilled to have this group working on season 3 of Star Trek Picard. It's not a Trek without Mike Okuda and Denise Okuda. Just you wait to see what Dave Blass has done. So that's an example of what Anne Marie's talking about,
Oh,
him
yeah.
being
I
a
have
great.
alerts set for everybody, all of those people. My phone goes off constantly with fun news.
Sounds stressful though. How often does your phone alert you?
Like in the past minute, like 5 times. I have all virtual TrekCon and 7-year-old alerts, obviously.
Those are the most important ones.
Yeah.
Top 40 maybe. Yeah, so I'm really excited about Picard season 3. But of course, what are we even talking about? They haven't even done season 2 yet. We haven't seen,
We're like,
but we're already
delicious.
like, I can't wait till season 3 starts.
I know, it's crazy. I mean, I for one am so excited for season 2 because I love time travel seasons. They're always my favorite, or time travel episodes. They're always my favorite, especially when it comes to TNG. I'm like a Time Zero fanatic, so I can't even wait. So excited.
It's also got the Voyager 7 of 9 with Future's End and stuff. Well, actually, was she in Future's End? I can't remember.
No, not yet.
No, that's right. That was before her time.
I do love Future's End too. They're all so good.
Anybody else like time travel episodes?
Obviously, they all liked them. They were Ball Center watching on that Edge of Forever.
Oh yeah, that one. Oof, that one gets me still. I mean, it's hard to keep a dry eye by the end of that episode. Oof.
All of them. Every time travel. I even like the Enterprise ones.
I like the even there. Come on. Enterprise get more love than that.
Get a hold of yourself, Anne Marie. Enterprise is a gem, and you
oh my
know
God.
it.
You know, show me the door. Yeah, super exciting news.
Yeah. Totally.
So yeah, we're looking forward to having Doug Drexler on because he not only is in Picard season 3 working on it, but he's also a really fun person to talk to. He's so positive. He's so fun. He's got great stories. So we're really looking forward to reconnecting with him again.
Plus he's working on the Orville.
That was the other thing, which is what, February or March? What was it?
Isn't that one March 18th?
I think so. I can't remember.
Pretty sure it's 18, but the 8 looks a little bit like a 3 in the font.
So we're going to be banging on Doug's door pretty often in the next 2 or 3 months.
I'm excited for that. I just bought my nephew a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer stuffed animal so he can be like in About a Girl in the Orville episode.
Oh, I love that Nirvana song.
Yeah.
E minor to G, almost the whole song, right? Everybody knows.
I don't know what that song is.
No?
You gotta sing
Somebody in the live chat knows what I'm talking about. The About a Girl is just E minor and G.
It's March 22nd.
Okay.
Oh, and let me clarify. Carbon Creek rules in terms of Enterprise episodes. That's one of the best Star Trek episodes. But I actually meant like the Nazi episodes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was not.
Because I still liked those.
I wish I did not see those episodes.
And Linda Anderegg says she loves especially the theme song of Enterprise.
There was a time travel one with the Xindi, like the reptilian Xindi that went back in time and was sucking blood out of people or something.
It's a really fun fast food restaurant, like drive-through order.
Yeah.
There was a lot of time travel in Enterprise.
Totally.
Because of resetting things and people dying.
Oh yeah, and Matt Boardman brought up a point about his Doug Drexler's wife Dorothy. She did the food for Enterprise, which at some point we need to have her on the show to talk about Star Trek food. She was the food designer, which is so fascinating. And I love when they show pictures of her preparing the food for Enterprise episodes. So cool. They're another I will say they're my other favorite Star Trek celebrity couple. And I love when they double date. It's so cute.
All right. Now, speaking of food, here's some food for thought.
Oh my God, that's like NPR level transition.
No problem, right? That's NPR. Okay. So let's talk about Prodigy for a little bit because they have just been dropping these news bombs everywhere in the last 48 hours where there's like a mid-season break. Suddenly, we thought there was going to be 10 episodes in a row. Now it's 5 and then 5. And then they said, oh, by the way, we're picked up for a season 2. And then, oh, by the way, there's 10 more episodes at the end of next year. We're like, is that season 2? They're like, no, that's just more of season 1. And we're like, I don't understand any of it, but I like it.
I have my calendar out, like a pen, trying to do the math.
I think for all.
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead.
No, please, I interrupted you.
Oh, I was just gonna say, even like Hollywood Reporter and Deadline weren't like understanding what we're like confused.
Yeah, there were a lot of articles out there that weren't making sense because they didn't understand what was happening.
Yeah. Thank goodness for Trek for breaking it down for us clearly.
So I think Discovery is the only one of all the new Treks so far that has had a break, and that was just Discovery season 1 where they actually had a break. All the rest have been just absolutely continuous. Discovery season 1 stopped in November and then picked up again in January, which is kind of like what the first part of Prodigy is now going to be doing.
I know. Like the old TV model.
Yeah.
Old series TV model.
Totally.
Winter break.
Yep.
Here we go.
Yeah. Let me show you real quick. I should have pulled up the Trek Core one, but we do have
I have it.
Oh, great. We've got
let me see.
Deadline here, which is usually very reliable and consistent. You know, they say Prodigy's renewed for season 2. 10 episodes, second season, they mention. But this was the news that was out everywhere. So premiered, we already know, it premiered October 28th. So it's going to go through Thursday, November 18th. That's going to be episode 5. So that's going to go at the same time as the first episode of Discovery season 4. And then that's it. Then it's going to be just Discovery until early January. And then presumably
it's on Aaron's birthday when they start. Right. They premiere the remaining 10 episodes.
That'll be nice.
The remaining 5, right?
Yeah,
10 after
5,
and then another 10.
10 episodes of season 1 will air starting January 6th.
Mm-hmm. It'll be the remaining 5. It'll be 5 right now, then 5 more, and then 10 more at the end
sometime at the
next
end of
year, I believe.
Yeah, that was my understanding.
At the end of 2022.
Mm-hmm. And
I guess February is when Picard starts, but I don't think we have a day yet.
So
right?
do we know if Discovery is then going to
break or not?
Also break, and then them and they and Prodigy will kind of stagger, or if then Prodigy and Discovery will be running concurrently in January? Because that's what we thought they're going to be doing in November and December.
It doesn't make sense to break it since then Picard starts in February. And then Strange New Worlds has to start, which I thought we had heard like late spring, but I don't know if there's a real date. Craziness.
IMDb lists 11 episodes in a row,
but I
don't know if they're exactly.
I think they still have Prodigy wrong, and then they added an extra episode, so it makes it look like Bonnie Gordon's in like every single episode more than anybody else. Which one of the episodes it just lists her as the only person.
Speaking of Bonnie, when she was on our 7th rule review of Prodigy, we mentioned something about, and then how many episodes? Is it going to be 9 episodes or 10 episodes? So I was like, oh, well, Bonnie, do you? And she kind of seemed a little coy. She's like, I don't know how many episodes, whatever it says. And now we know why. It's because she was sitting there going like, I'm not saying anything until it becomes, you're not tricking me into saying how many episodes there are. You think it's an innocent question, but there's trickery afoot.
There are no innocent questions when the non-disclosure agreement is involved.
Very true. Oh, speaking of which, Mohamed, so how many episodes of Discovery season 4 are there going to be?
I actually looked to see if I could find the answer online because I know the answer, but I tried to find online and I couldn't find it. So I'm just like,
all right, we'll wait.
Another not so innocent question.
Yeah, sorry.
And Anne-Marie, you haven't signed an NDA. How many episodes will season 1 of Strange New Worlds have?
I don't know. Although I was following them really closely because I started following, like, somebody has a Twitter account in Toronto who talks about where things are being filmed and what days.
Mhm.
So I was creepily stalking Strange New Worlds that way.
Creepily.
Yeah.
Do you see this? The great comment by Bob D in the chat says, "Speaking of Bonnie, is she still stuck in your Zoom room?"
Excellent knowledge. Well, actually, I think this would now be a good time to say that she will be back pretty often. She's great. Obviously, we love her and the fans love her, so she will be back very often. I don't know how it's going to work with the mid-season break and then the 5 episodes and then future episodes. Really don't know, because that kind of threw us fans for a loop. But everybody at home, you'll be seeing much more of Bonnie, and you'll be hearing, more importantly, much more of her voice when she's like, I'm not going to do it. I was going to try to do it, but I was like, I'm just going to embarrass myself. But she's so good on the mic, and she's great to talk with. And we're also talking with other people on the 7th Rule that are affiliated with the show. And so hopefully we'll have them on for some reviews as well. That's very exciting. And we just need to lock that in, because there are a few hoops to jump through and talk with the PR department. Our PR department, of course.
Oh,
Of course.
We got so many people working for us.
People.
Yeah, no. But anyway, they're all great, and it's awesome. And we're hoping to have more people. So that's gonna be awesome. Are you guys enjoying the season so far of Prodigy?
Oh yeah.
That was a very enthusiastic.
Oh,
Oh
yeah.
yeah, I love.
No, I
that
mean,
song.
especially that pilot. Holy moly, that was so good. I mean, it was like watching like a great Pixar movie or something like that. Like, whoa.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I just have to say, like, oh, go ahead.
It is such a visual treat,
Mhm.
to, see.
And obviously, the 7th Rule Prodigy reviews are amazing and also have the actual computer voice. But I do have to say, I heard that Mission Log's Prodigy reviews, which come out later in the week, they actually have Rob Roddenberry's son calling in to give his opinions
That's
on the
pretty
show,
cool.
which is Gene Roddenberry's grandson, which is just adorable.
How old is he?
How old is?
Oh,
I
sorry.
think I want to say like 9 or 10. He's like in the target age range, because I've seen him learning how to play Star Trek Online with his dad before on a Priority One podcast, like charity fundraiser. But I
Damn.
thought that's so special. They have like multiple kids call in to share their opinions, but it's just so cute that it's Gene Roddenberry's grandson.
That is the perfect age, and it makes me say, tell your nephew to hurry up and grow up, Anne-Marie.
Rebecca, no, Ryan just said my nephew needs to grow up. Yeah, he's just 1. We'll work on it.
Practical. That's close enough, right?
Yeah. Can't
Wow,
wait.
that is a great idea, though. That's fun. When do they air? When do they?
I'm not sure. Actually, it might just be, I have to look, but you can, hold on, let me tell you the Twitter link so everybody can follow it. Because they have like now a Twitter Mission Log Prodigy account.
Oh, that's cute.
It's at ML_Prodigy. I'll copy it and put it here too.
That's it?
Yeah, it's really cute. Yeah, that's their Twitter handle.
Okay, cool. So everybody check that out. Only if you want to see really cute stuff that's fun and enjoyable, then go ahead.
I heard it
and do
restores
that.
your faith in humanity by how cute and sweet these kids are when they call in.
That's impossible.
That's what John Champion told me. So.
Wow. All right. So that's cool. Looking forward to more Prodigy. 2 more days and episode 4 will come out. We're already on episode 4, and we'll be reviewing that on the 7th Rule on Thursday at 6. Also, one more thing I wanted to show everybody.
9 p.m. Eastern.
Got it. On what day?
Thursday.
Boo. That's like our exact time that we drop ours too. That's funny.
Wait, what? No, I thought.
Oh,
you were
Amber was talking
about.
about she was talking about seventh
I, was
row.
talk, I thought you were talking about.
I thought
Seven
I thought you were telling us when mission log was going.
Oh, you
I was
said
like, that is a
6 and I
perfect
said
time.
9 p.m. Eastern. Oh,
You don't know yet when mission log drops?
I think it might. I can't tell. It might just be audio on iTunes. I mean, it for sure is audio on iTunes.
Okay. Well, everybody go follow them on Twitter, and I'm sure you'll get the information there.
Mhm.
So check that out. But one more thing here, Discovery, which Mohamed you may have heard of. We've got 15 new photos from Star Trek
that's
Discovery
right.
season 4. This is just 9 days away, guys. This is
Yeah,
there's
Four
all
Can't
this
wait.
news everywhere, and we're forgetting that, by the way, Discovery's dropping in 9 days. So here are a few pictures for us to enjoy. Everybody listening in, sorry.
Stop with that cape.
Yeah, there's some
Good cape game.
aliens in the background there looking at a lady with a cape who's looking
That's
at
the
something.
president. The
Chella
president,
Horsdal.
President Lyra Relic.
or Lyra.
And another picture is her with Michael Burnham, and they're looking again at something concernedly.
Mhm.
Is that a word, Mohamed? Concernedly?
I don't know. Not an English professor.
It seems like it is
Let's just say
concerned.
a concerned look about them.
Yeah, I like concernedly.
But also, we have the first 4 episode titles, and I didn't
Yeah.
see any
Yeah.
direct clues to. I mean, obviously, one is Kobayashi Maru. Obviously, that is a clue.
Yes.
But I didn't
Yeah.
see any obvious ties to Unification Part 4. Or something.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it'd be like Unification Part -1. Oh no, they are in the future. Shoot, I can't keep up anymore. Yeah, first episode is Kobayashi Maru, which is pretty awesome. There's
And it
Tilly
looks
in
like
her
Reese
blue.
is in the captain's chair, and I know how much you love Reese and Bryce.
I did see that too. That's pretty interesting. There he is.
Ryan Catnip.
So that's Reese, and Detmer's still at the helm there.
And now I know the
And
difference between Reese and Bryce. That's Reese. I never know, they're always mentioned together.
similar names too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, and Saru's back looking
I love this
dapper in
picture
red.
too. Don't they look
Yeah.
so cute looking at each other?
Those
Yes.
uniforms are great. My wife was very bitter because she just got me a blue Discovery Science uniform right before the finale aired. She's like, seriously? They're changing the uniform right as I got you this one?
That makes it vintage.
Yeah, there you go. Just one more to get. That's all.
And there's
Lots of side-eye.
Culber looking sharp as always.
In that white, it's so nice.
Mhm.
With a shirt actually on, as opposed to every day on Instagram.
And there's also a picture of Culber
true.
talking to Nilsson, who's played by Sarah Middich, who was the original Ariam.
Mhm.
But now she became Nilsson, and they killed off Ariam. So she's like, whatever, I'm cool. I'm good now. Oh, that looks really good.
Yeah.
Anthony
Sure.
Rapp in blue. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You just turned 50.
What?
Ow.
Yeah.
Anthony Rapp's 50?
Yeah.
I guess
You
Rent
posted
has-
that on Twitter
has
just the
been a
other
long
day.
time since Rent.
Rent
He-
has been around a long.
You mentioned he has to
Wow.
get a colonoscopy now because he's turned 50.
Oh,
That's as many points as Steph Curry scored last night. I'm sure we're all thinking that.
that's what I was thinking.
And Owaskin's here. in
Oh,
Oh,
gold.
she looks great.
Yay.
Yeah.
it is
Booker
fun
and
to
Michael.
transition to those colors. You know I love a good ship.
Yeah. You gave good ship. Anyway, lots of really cool pictures. So check that out. We saw those on trekmovie.com. So everybody that's listening in, if you'd like the visual enjoyment that we just had, go check out trekmovie.com. Because those are really cool. And I kind of got lost just staring at all those.
I know. I was like, Ryan, focus.
Right, they're cool. Looks
I
good.
know.
Captivating.
Mhm. Well, boy, oh boy. I think we're getting close to the.
We're all in the
What-
post David Mack haze.
I'm still thinking about that. Okay, so let's go around the table and everybody tell the people at home where they can find you online or whatever you'd like to promote at the moment. Malissa?
I didn't know I was gonna go first.
Yes, you did.
No, I was saying goodnight to J.R. Poole, who said
Oh,
goodnight.
see you later, JR Poole.
Good night, J.R. Poole. You can find me online at the Twitter at formelissa.com and at the Instagram at Melissa, whatever, Melissa Longo. And the YouTube and the Facebook and all of that jazz, and walking art made by Melissa, and the Seventh Rule, and here at Virtual TrekCon. And I do have a couple of podcasts that I'm going to be participating in this month. One is Starfleet Underground with Patrick Hall, and the other is NC Stephanie Klein's podcast I'll be doing as well.
706.
NX7.
7062, is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
I
I think that's right.
1062 or 706. It's one of those.
Yeah.
And then also Matt Boardman was in the chat talking about Starfleet Underground, actually.
Oh, cool.
So I hear they talk dirty. So if you wanna hear dirty jokes, woohoo!
Woohoo.
Oh, and we'll be reviewing Prodigy episode 4, I believe.
Oh, great
Awesome.
combo. Prodigy and dirty jokes. You guys
Yeah.
ought to be ashamed of yourselves.
Dirty jokes.
Anne Marie. Oh, I'm sorry. Rebecca Segal. Where can we
Yeah, I'm on my sister's
where can we
computer.
find you online?
At Anne Marie Siegel 1 on Twitter.
Nice. What about you, Dr. Mohamed Noor?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all with at MAF, like Frank Noor, Noor. And on YouTube, if you just search for BioTrekkie or BioTrekkie Explains, I actually have a new BioTrekkie Explains video coming up tomorrow morning. So
What?
look for that.
I think my alerts are set for your channel.
What time? What time?
It releases 10 a.m. Eastern, so that'll be on there, and it's an TAS episode that's being discussed. So
Oh.
first one.
This guy
Yes.
gets it. This guy gets it.
I can't wait to see what you wear.
Ooh.
There are always themes, like uniform
Yeah.
themes for the topic.
Yep, I try.
Okay. So, and everybody, you can find me, just Google Ryan T. Husk and follow me on whatever your preferred social media is or preferred YouTube channel is. Please be sure to subscribe to this channel. That's very important. And please be sure to give this video a like or 5 stars if you're listening in, and give us tons of comments in the comment section below, because that's also a great thing. It's time for the trivia question.
Oh, yay!
It's time for the trivia question, and this one is very tough. So everybody that's listening in, this is the toughie. Don't give this one away if you guys know this one. In Lower Decks, which ship saved the USS Cerritos in the final episode? I guess they mean the final episode of
Oh,
season
season
1.
Season 1, yeah.
Is it A, the USS Enterprise, B, the USS Titan, C, the USS Raven, or D, the USS Defiant?
So I'm pretty confident. I mean, I know we
No,
can't get that answer yet. I know.
Yeah.
No.
I'm just gonna say, for the MCAT to get into medical school, Kaplan would teach you, like the best way to do is like stop at the stem of the question, think, and predict the answer, and that way you don't get tripped up by like red herrings. They're gonna fool you. So I predicted before I heard the multiple choice questions. So that's how I'm pretty confident I'm right.
Good strategy.
Question. Could you repeat the question and the answers, because my screen
Yes.
froze?
Oh, yeah. In Lower Decks, which ship saved the USS Cerritos in the final episode? Is it the Enterprise, the Titan, the Raven, or the Defiant?
The Raven.
I know.
Yeah.
A good Voyager reference
Wait.
there.
The Ravens are one of my favorite Voyagers.
Yeah.
Chuck says the USS Nog.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes.
All right, everybody, give us your answers. And we're about to tell you the answer right now is...
But first, don't you have to say what's airing on 7th Rule and Virtual TrekCon this week?
Yeah.
Fine.
Please.
No, you're right. You are absolutely right. Here we go. So we'll tell you that answer in just about like 30 seconds. But here's the upcoming schedule for this week. Yesterday, Deep Space Nine premiered. Deep Space Nine, the full episode of Deep Space Nine, season 5, episode 24, Mohamed Noor. Just kidding, Empok Noor. Boy, I've been waiting all week to say that one. Doesn't get any better than that. Sorry, guys. So check that out. That is currently already premiered, so you can watch that on the 7th Rule. The link is in the description box below, so go check that out. Lots of fun, really cool. On Thursday, that's in just a couple days, we are reviewing Prodigy episode 4, which is going to be really cool. Bonnie Gordon will be there, if you can believe that, everybody. Woo! Everybody loves her. She's great. We love her. And we're going to be reviewing that. That is at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific time. And check that out. That's on Thursday. The link is in the description box below. Again, also, this upcoming Sunday, we'll have our 7th Sunday mini con featuring Virtual TrekCon 2 video with Doug Jones and David Benjamin Tomlinson to get us ready for Discovery next week.
Perfect.
So that's going to get us all ready to go and primed.
That was a great one.
Falling Towers Watch the First podcast will be reviewing the first episode of Alien Worlds with Dr. Mohamed Noor. Boy,
Empok Noor.
Dr. Empok Noor.
Dr. Empok Noor.
Very cool. Very cool. So that is a fun one. Check that out. If any of you have seen Alien Worlds on Netflix, it's really interesting. And I was going to start describing it, but you're just going to have to find out. Just wait. On Sunday, you'll see how we all felt about it and what it's about. And it all starts with a Deep Space Nine review by the 7th Rule, of course. Ryan's re-listens. Well, sometimes we do that. You know, like people do the re-watches. Let's do a re-listen of
Nine Inch Nails.
Oh yeah, we're talking about Pretty Hate Machine, right?
There you go.
9 Inch Nails, Pretty Hate Machine. Very good. Very good. Treat yourself. That is a good one. All right, everybody. So the answer, of course, everybody knows it is B, the USS Titan, and it's not a particularly tough one for anybody that's seen
a
it.
Little card.
Titan.
What's yellow mean?
That's the answer.
Oh, they're just all yellow. I know it didn't come with instruction.
Well, that's it. The USS Titan, of course, everybody knows that because that's what swooped in with Riker at the end of season 1, and they featured it for the first couple episodes of season 2.
Someone said the TARDIS.
Leo.
Hilarious.
Very good answers, everybody. All right, that's about it. So everybody at home, thank you so much for joining us. Please be sure to subscribe and give 5 stars and share this with your friends. You know, check out Mohamed's stuff. Check out Melissa's stuff. Like all of Anne-Marie's tweets because they're usually pretty cool and informative. And I think that's about it. So remember, if you want to enjoy a fireside chat in which we tell stories of Star Trek future episodes and books by David Mack, put it on the main viewer. That was kind of a stretch, but
We're working.